Here we are in the middle of hunting season, and I realize I don't have a summer sausage recipe on the channel. Well, that's a blunder that I'm here to correct. I'm making this delicious venison summer sausage that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. I'm making a 10-pound batch of sausage today, or roughly 4.5 kilos, and I'm gonna start with 115 grams of plain salt. This is 20 grams of white sugar. I've got 25 grams of black pepper, another 25 grams of whole mustard seed. This is 10 grams of garlic powder, and I've got 2 grams of cayenne pepper for just a tiny bit of zest. And this is my cure. I'm gonna be using 11 grams of pink cure number 1. I'll also add in 120 grams of non-fat powdered milk for binder and 250 milliliters of ice cold water. Now, in addition to these, I'll also be adding in 34 grams of encapsulated citric acid, but I'm not gonna put this in until right before I stuff the sausage. So we'll talk about this more when we get there, and I'm gonna leave it out for now. I want this black pepper to be really coarsely ground, or even just cracked. So I could fuss about with my pepper mill for a very long time, but I think I'm just gonna pour it in this plastic bag and beat the heck out of it with this plastic mallet. Not too shabby. All right, let's mix up all these spices. Oh, I love those mustard seeds. The cure, I'm gonna dissolve in the water just to help work it through that sausage mix nice and easy. I was cleaning out the freezer, getting ready for hunting season, and I found a fat sack of venison trimmings from last year. And this was one of those bred-fed country club deer, real nice and fatty, at least for a blacktail. But this venison alone is far too lean to make the sausage, so I have to add in fat to get it up to somewhere between 25 and 35% fat content. So, to my 7 pounds, which is a little over 3 kilos of venison trimmings, I'm adding in 3 pounds, which is just under 1.5 kilos of fatty pork belly, and that will get me where I want to be as far as fat content. Now, everything is partially frozen, and my grinder parts are ice cold too, so let's grind some meat. 1 pass through the fine plate should be good enough for this sausage, but you can grind this any way you like. It's time to glove up and mix. This stuff is icy cold, so the cotton liners are a big help. I'll get that water and cure down in there. That'll help loosen things up, make it a little easier to mix, but it is gonna be hard. And it should be hard. You want to mix this thoroughly for a good long time, maybe 10-15 minutes, pretty much as long as you can take it if you're mixing by hand. And that's going to help pull out the proteins in there and make your sausage have a real nice tight bind to it. So just dive in there and go to work. There we go. This stuff's getting nice and stiff. More importantly, it's very tacky now, and that's what you're after. Real sticky and tacky meat. And now, once you're done mixing this up, this goes out into the refrigerator overnight to let that cure work its magic and kill any bugs that might want to grow in your meat.
The next morning.
Sausage Sunday, and you know what that means. It's time to lock and load and crank one out. But first, I've got one more mix in. Traditional summer sausage is fermented for a while to give it that familiar tangy flavor, and I'm currently gathering the parts to make my own fermentation box, but for now, I use this encapsulated citric acid to simulate that fermentation. Encapsulated citric acid is coated with a waxy surface that dissolves when it gets hot. And you want to mix it in just before stuffing the sausage so those little acid beads don't have a lot of time to break down and start eating away at your sausage. That can make for a sausage with a grainy texture, and that's one that you're going to quietly eat alone and in shame. So I'm going to mix in 34 grams for this 10-pound batch. That's 7.5 grams per kilo, and they say that's around 1 teaspoon per pound, but let's see how close they are. You can see those little waxy balls of citric acid, much different than the powdery stuff I use for canning tomatoes. That was just about 8 teaspoons to get to 34 grams, and I think that's close enough that if you did go 1 teaspoon per pound of meat, you're going to be doing just fine. You don't need to mix this citric acid in nearly as hard as you mixed it the first time. Again, you don't want to break up those little beads, so just give it one thorough mix and you're good to go. I'm using these red fibrous casings today, so there's no need for a long soak. Just a quick dip in some lukewarm water and you're good to go. And I don't anticipate any air bubble problems with these big sausages, but Corn Pop is still here as a spectator today. Even though I could fit these casings onto the really big horn, the smaller horn gives me more control over how much I put in here. This one, it will come out so fast that I will barely have time to think about it before this casing is full. You're always going to have some sausage mix left over in the horn and down here in the bottom of the stuffer. And you could get that out by running some dry bread through here or some cooked rice, but I prefer to just take that out and have it for breakfast. Now let's get these out to the sausage closet. Now these are going to hang out here in the sausage closet for an hour to start coming up to temperature and to dry off those casings. I got my fan going on under those, and unlike natural casings, these casings are going to dry out really quick, so I'm not going to do any additional drying in the smoker, and these will go right from the closet and into the smoke. We're out of the sausage closet and into the smoker. Nice cool temp right now, 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit to start. I got some water down in my water pan, and I'm running apple wood today. I might throw in a little dash of hickory too. Now our smoke schedule today is gonna be 2 hours at 130 to 140. Then I'll bump it up to 150 for another 2 hours. After that, I'll cut the smoke, turn the temp up to 180, and cook these guys to an internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit. A lot of people ask how I can keep this smoker at such a low temp, and even with it turned all the way down, I need to keep the door cracked just a little bit.
Later.
Now my 4-hour smoking time is done, so I'm gonna raise the temperature in here to 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got my temperature probe in one of these, and I'm gonna cook these to an internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I'm not gonna need to add any more wood down into the wood chip pan, because the smoke penetration really happens at those lower temperatures, and as those heat up, I'm really just going to collect smoke on the outside of them, and it's not going to make a big difference in the flavor of the sausage. My alarm's telling me these are ready. I always want to double check with a handheld. Looks like I got a little ways to go. This one is probably just not centered right. We'll give those another 30 minutes or so. Pulling these things out at the right temperature is crucial, so you want to make sure you've got good equipment for checking the internal temperature. Now, the people at Chef's Temp sent me this little guy a couple of months ago, and I've been playing around with it ever since. So far, I'm pretty impressed. It performs just as well as some that I have that cost about 3 times as much, so it's already a pretty good value, but you can also save a little money with my code that I'll drop down in the description below. But now, let's get these things into the ice. I'll just leave these in here for 10 or 15 minutes to make sure I get these things cooling down at the core. Then I'll hang them up, let them dry, and then I'll put them in the refrigerator, and we'll try these guys out tomorrow. Now let's see how we did. And it doesn't get much more exciting than this. Ooh, yeah. That is looking real good. It's got a very nice grain to it. I can see some little bits of black pepper and mustard in there. Oh man, this is gonna be great. Ooh. Check out that bite. Oh yeah. That is a great sausage. The spices and that tang from the citric acid really hit that familiar flavor, but the meat, that takes it to another level. Beef sausages are great, but venison adds a layer of flavor and an air of mystery. Just for the heck of it, let's compare it to this tailor-made sausage. Well, they're similar. You can see this one has a finer grain to it. But texture-wise, these are worlds apart. This one is pretty soft and very greasy. This one is firm, it's got a nice mouthfeel to it, and it is definitely quite a bit leaner than this one, but without sacrificing anything as far as flavor. I'll take the venison any day. Now it's getting kind of late in the day, so I've got to get out there and see about restocking the freezer. Good luck out there, everybody. Thanks for watching.